blah, blah. Not so horrible.
Are you going to smile? Is that the sound of smiling?
Yes, because this is both a visual and an audio medium. This is the sound of me smiling.
So,
what's the sound of you smiling, Derek? What do you sound like when you smile? No, I don't like that one. We should not know.
That's why I never smiled as a kid, because I always got bullied. They're like, "What is wrong with you? Why are you making that noise?"
I think this is the first time I side with the bullies. If child Derek walked up to me and it's like, "Okay, smile for the picture." No, actually, we're bullying this kid. He's not allowed to smile anymore.
Don't bully him. He's gonna have a hard future.
Do you have a sound when you frown then? See, that's
it's really hard to frown.
You trying to frown and smile, yeah. And then here's my frown sound.
I figured you'd do that. Good continuity.
This is how you find your podcast co-host. You have to be yin and yang here, you know.
Just like 90% of the cinematography in the movie Smile 2, we flipped it.
Okay, yeah, I take that. Just like the difference between Smile 1 from some year that I can't remember, 20-something, a couple years ago. 2022, and then Smile 2, released in 2024. Quite opposites, I would say. So,
why are you talking about that, Isaac, co-host of the podcast?
Well, Derek, co-host of the podcast, I'm talking about that because for our little horror review podcast called
That
Was Horrible.
Dang it. I had one job in the whole world.
You wrote it down on your hand and everything.
It's gone.
Oh, God.
Did I use it? Oh, no,
it's
just
on
peed
my
on
hand. How did you... Magic?
I actually just peed on my hand.
Oh, did we shake?
I
you
forgot.
shook my hand after peeing on
No,
it?
I forgot that you're supposed to write the invisible ink and then pee on it to make it appear. Instead, I just tried to write it in
Derek,
pee.
I think that was something that the bullies told you as a kid. You don't have to pee on the invisible ink.
Anyway, this is Not So Horrible.
Yes,
if you've watched us before, we're reviewing a good movie this time with this little shindig.
Yes. Or a bad one, because that's our deal with the premise of like Not So Horribles. We typically go for something that is a new release. At least that's how it's been up until this point.
Yeah.
And so it's up in the air. We don't know if it's good, like great or bad, but usually it is on the better side of things.
Yeah, I mean, it just doesn't fit into our horrible.
Yes, where those are specifically, the lower end of the ratings by Mr. Tomato of Rotten Tomatoes. And so this time we are here to review Smile 2, released in 2024, directed by
Parker Finn and written by Parker Finn, who was starring the great Naomi Scott, as you may know as Jasmine from Aladdin.
Jasmine from the live-action Aladdin movie, or if you got a deep cut, you'll remember her as the Pink Power Ranger from the Power Rangers 2017 movie. You remember that movie?
No, because I didn't see it.
I'll say right here, that movie was kind of awesome.
Is that the one where Elizabeth Banks played the bad guy?
I think you're probably right. I honestly don't remember much about Regina Spektor. What the hell was her name?
Regina Spektor?
No,
I do love her.
I'm so close on the name, I swear to God. There's a close name from that. Yeah, the Power Rangers movie from 2017 was surprisingly okay. It was actually pretty enjoyable.
Well, maybe I'll check. I'm not gonna.
But yeah, so if you loved the Pink Power Ranger from that, played by Naomi Scott, you would love her in this movie. She is back in Smile 2 2024, delivering a powerhouse performance in this movie. Like, I think she is sincerely what puts this movie above not only the original one, but like above other horror movies released this year. I would say she delivers quite a performance.
As our final bit of Power Rangers content, yes, Elizabeth Banks played Rita Repulsa.
I was so Regina Spektor, Rita Repulsa.
No, because one's a fabulous musical artist, and the other is repulsive.
They're so close. They're so close to each other. But so Parker Finn was responsible for the first Smile movie, right?
Yes,
which you've seen.
Well, yeah,
we've both seen Smile 1.
They both movies were based on a short film that Parker DeWitt, very different. Parker Finn made in 2020 called Laura Hasn't Slept.
And so
we just checked that one out, actually. Yeah. It was very interesting, very
He's
cool.
behind all of them, which is so interesting to me because, I don't want to speak for you. Me personally, didn't really care much for Smile 1, except for like the last 10 minutes of the movie.
It felt extremely cliche to me, and I feel like if I went back and watched it now, I would have garnered a new respect for it.
There'd be a different feel for it, right?
When I was thinking about it, because I was explaining this to Emily, my lovely wife. I was explaining her the plot of Smile 2.
Right.
Because I was like, here, have every spoiler for this movie. Sit down in this chair while I describe to you the enormity of this movie.
I sit here and tell this movie at you. You need to experience everything. But I mean, to get a little ahead of ourselves, it is the kind of movie you want to go and tell people about.
Exactly. But also,
I've been doing the same thing.
But also, you kind of don't, because like you want people to experience it themselves.
I've been struggling to be like, I want to tell you enough to get you in the theater, but not enough to spoil it for you, because you need to experience it.
Anyway, so going back, my thoughts on Smile 1 have actually kind of changed because I feel like one of the reasons I didn't like Smile 1 is because it felt cliche, like I was trying to say. And then also, I didn't realize it was a demon.
Oh my gosh.
Should I blurp that out?
It's not a spoiler. I don't think that's
a spoiler.
I mean, it's also a sequel, right? We know in the first one there was something about some demon possesses people. Like,
that's a good point.
Yeah, not a spoiler.
That's not really a spoiler, actually, really at all.
No.
But when I was watching Smile 1, I didn't realize that it was a demon until the very end. And I feel like if I went back and watched it now, I would have a bigger respect for the movie and probably enjoy it more.
I think so too.
Based on that. My initial reaction to the movie was like, wow, this movie sucks. The last 20 minutes of this are all I enjoyed.
That was really me. And even then it was like the last 20 minutes were pretty enjoyable, but not enough to make me think it was a good movie. I'm like, you didn't save yourself with these last 20 minutes of insanity. However, like it still was lackluster for me. So it was definitely, yeah, I don't know. It felt like they were doing something that's been done before, right?
Yeah.
It's like the typical, a demon that possesses a person gets passed down by some means, right? I mean, we've seen this with the incredible movie It Follows, right? Like that's a movie where it's literally an STD, a sexually transmitted demon.
Yeah.
Basically in that movie. So it goes from person to person, right? And so like that's a similar situation with here. There is a demon that drives you to insanity, forces you to see the people you know and love, and they're doing weird things. They're all smiling at you with this creepy smile, and then it drives you to your death, your untimely demise kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I was really intrigued. I actually was not happy about the fact when they announced a sequel for this. I'm like,
me neither.
What more can we do? I feel like we saw as much as we could have had in the first movie, which is kind of why I'm so happy that this movie ended up being such an enjoyable time.
Yeah, me too.
I'm impressed that you took such a basic concept we've seen a lot before. There are a lot of cliches that can happen with it. How did you do good? How did you give us another movie with basically the same thing? Because like literally you can take the synopsis of like Smile 1 and say, now what's happening to Naomi Scott?
Yeah, basically.
that's like the simplest way you can say like that's what's happening in this movie.
But like to not give anything away, about halfway through we'll start talking about spoilers, but
you will be warned.
You will be warned. And for just the way they connected the movies was so clever.
I loved it.
I was when the movie was starting and I was watching these characters deal with what they were dealing at the beginning. I had no idea. And then all of a sudden it clicked.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, that's genius.
And it's such a good way because it doesn't explicitly say these events are happening because of this, right? Like, and they never do that. You just kind of infer like, oh, I see why this is happening this way and how we ended up here. It's really good.
And there is no need for prior knowledge.
No.
Smile 2 lives entirely on its own.
And I will tell that, and I've told people this too, because I've told some people who are like, maybe I want to go see Smile 2 while it's in theaters. One, absolutely go see it in theaters. See any movie in theaters.
Absolutely.
And two, if you haven't seen Smile 1, you are not missing a lot.
You really don't need to see it.
There is literally just the opening scene with a character from the first Smile movie. It's a pretty short-lived thing. You will not be missing a lot by not knowing who that is.
But honestly, you don't even need to know why he's in his situation.
No.
As soon as the events start unraveling, it explains itself in context.
Exactly, yeah. So you don't even need to know what's happening there. It's nice to be like, oh, I recognize that guy.
Yeah.
Right? I know him from the first movie, but it is not necessary to go see this movie. It is its own thing. They really just went back to the drawing board after creating Smile 1 and just did it right. It's better in every single possible way they could have.
They really came in with a game plan. Huge shout out to Parker Finn here with the writing, because I don't know how he did it. I don't know how he did it.
That's what sincerely impresses me. When I found out he was the same director from the first one, my immediate thought was it was a different director, right? Because I'll say it, didn't enjoy Smile 1. I did enjoy Smile 2 quite a bit. And so I'm the same director on both of these movies, how did he shift so hard? What changed in you, But he really did. He came back and made like I said, every conceivable way, it is better than the original, which is not common. I'm typically pretty against sequels.
Oh, yeah. But I think this is definitely, it's kind of a Winnie the Pooh Blood is Honey situation where you get a great idea and you don't really know what to do with it, and then you get money, and that money is like, okay, now I can go forward with it. And
which I love. You love to see them not like go and blow it on things that are not necessary and just like, we're kind of cheap grabs just because they have the money to do things. They really take that and like, okay, let's be smart with this and make a very good sequel to this, right? And they really did.
And something I want to mention here, the money for the first movie isn't actually that much different than the money from the second movie.
Which is wild.
Because the first movie had a budget of $17 million.
Crazy.
Which is an insane amount of money. And the amount that they did with it, I feel like it was wasted. I really feel like they wasted a lot of their money.
There was a lot of nothing going on in that movie.
Exactly. But then they come in with a budget of $28 million, so they got $11 million more dollars, which is it's significant.
That's a lot of money,
that
of course.
It's not double, but it's $10 million more, $11 million more. So, but the amount of money I don't feel like mattered in this situation. I really feel like they honed it in.
Yes.
They were like, let's focus on the things that work for this creature, for this franchise, and scare people.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you right now, this movie scared me.
I have not seen Derek jump in our years of friendship at this point. I have not seen him jump quite this high in his seat while watching a movie.
There is specifically one scene in this movie that you're fixed perspective on a cell phone, a video on a cell phone.
Yep.
And that video is moving so dramatically that you're forced to not pay attention to the peripherals around the phone. Those kind of things always get me anyway.
Absolutely.
But this one was done so well.
And let's talk about the jump scares in this movie, because there are a decent amount of them, right? Smile 1 really felt like the movie where like, okay, so you didn't write it well enough that it is scary on its own. So like the jump scares are added so it is scary, right? I feel like that always happens in horror where like, this movie's not scary enough. We need to throw a thing in there to make it scarier, right? And so like that always happens, right? So Smile 2, there's a lot of jump scares in it still, but all of them felt like meaningful and they worked. They like, because basically we're following our protagonist here, Naomi Scott playing Sky Riley in this movie. She is losing her mind, right? There is this demon that is like causing her issues and stuff like that, making her lose her mind. So like these jump scares are not only happening to us, but to her. Like she is experiencing these things popping up in her reality, her crazy, her twisted mind, and I think, but it really, really works for me. Like there were not many jump scares. I don't think there were really any jump scares that I was like, well, that was kind of,
Which is, again, I mean, we should stop comparing it to the first one at this point.
Two very different movies.
They are very different movies, but
So
that is not
different.
what I felt in the first movie. The first movie like made me like jump a little bit, but it was never like scared to jump, and I was
No.
always annoyed at it.
Right.
These movies, I
like,
was
why did it work?
That worked so well.
Yeah, there were a couple in here that I was like, whoa, okay, even if you saw it coming, it still got you.
So I think for me, one of the things that was most scary and effective about this movie dang it, I just said let's not compare to the first one, but this is actually
No, let's.
This is important.
I don't think we're going to be able to get away from it.
No, in the first movie, I never felt like the situations the people were dealing with were things that I would deal with.
True.
Like I never felt that.
Which is pretty wild because the main character of the sequel is like a pop star.
Right.
How are we
I'm not
relating
gonna
to
be
this
in
pop
that
star?
situation.
Yeah.
Like,
However,
but
yeah,
I 100% was scared for myself in
relating
a sense.
to this character.
I was like, if I was in this situation, I don't know how I would deal with it.
No.
And that fear of watching what this character's going through, it really sits in you.
Absolutely.
It really scares you.
And there is a thing that I think I can say here where it's like this demon that possesses a person messes with your sense of reality, right? You do not understand what is real and what is not. And they didn't really play with that enough in the first movie. In this sequel, I didn't trust anything.
I didn't trust anything.
I could not trust anything that was happening was actually the reality. If anything crazy happened, I was like, I don't know. This could be real. This could not. I really don't know.
Even when the credits rolled, I didn't know if I could trust what just happened.
We could have been faked out right there for all we know. It was,
But I mean, I'm pretty sure we all know what actually happened at the end. We'll talk about that in a bit.
We'll get to that in a second. I did enjoy the ending, though. I was not expecting it to end the way that it did.
I am so torn on if I want a sequel to this movie because on one hand,
yes,
I'm like, okay, I want to know what happens. How do you deal with this? On the other hand, I'm like, I don't want to see a director/writer try.
No, honestly, like we hit it so right here. Really coming after Smile 1, really knocking it out of the park with Smile 2. I'm like, it's in such a good place. I don't want to mess with that now.
No,
like, let's just not ruin this here. Because to talk about Smile 1, that one ends in a way where like you could basically put at the end of the credits, like the smile demon will return, right? Like it ends in a way where like, oh no, this is still going on. The sequel does not quite end that way, not quite as deliberate like that, like they're setting up another movie.
It felt sneaky.
Yes.
It's like, you didn't think we were going to do this, but we did it. And the credits rolled, and you're like, shit, really? We're going there?
I was just in awe. And again, like we get to the finale sequence here, and I'm like, I don't know if any of this is real, because like there are things that happen in that sequence that like retcon things that have happened earlier in the movie. So I'm like, I don't know what's reality and what isn't. This is so crazy. And then credits roll. You're like, what do you mean? What do you mean? What's happening? It was very good. It's another one that left me similar to like The Substance earlier this year, where I'm like laughing as the credits roll. I was like, that was nuts. That was so crazy.
It went crazy. It went crazy, but in a good way.
Absolutely.
I mean,
some good gore in it too.
Oh, dude, the gore effects were
was not
insane.
expecting that. I forget there was a bit of gore in the first one.
Yeah.
Like but nothing that I can really recall that was super
Nothing
crazy.
stuck with me.
This one, there were a couple moments I was like, whoa, okay.
Shifting over to Naomi, though. Naomi Watts. Is that her name?
Naomi Scott.
Naomi Scott.
I feel like she gave more than they were expecting. Like
she gave more than anyone was expecting.
Like I don't know. Maybe this is exactly what they wanted, their vision for this, and maybe like she just gave exactly what was written, what was directed by Parker Finn. But I really feel like they had an idea for this movie, and then they just found the perfect individual to come in and play this role.
Yeah.
So the movie essentially revolves around. We've kind of talked around it a bit. It is about Naomi Scott playing this rising pop star, Sky Riley, and she is about to start a tour. She was away for a minute. There's a bit of a plot line about like substance abuse she had issues with. She left the spotlight for a minute, but now she's back. And so she's back. She's about to go on this big tour, and that's when the events of this like smile demon coming into her life start happening. So like it is really, as soon as so I was not happy about the fact that they announced a sequel to Smile, right?
Yeah,
I was okay, Smile 2, why are we doing this?
We were there.
But then they released the trailer for it, and it starts out with this pop star on a stage with these flashing lights. I was like, no, this is genius.
Yeah.
Because like the events of Smile 1 are all like, small contained thing. It's like one person. This one, like a big icon in the public eye having this big mental breakdown because this demon is psychologically annihilating her. Like that is such a good idea.
Such a good idea.
It's so wild.
And where's that going to go? Like,
exactly.
You don't know. Oh my gosh.
Like what can happen with that? So like, yeah, Naomi Scott comes in here and delivers such a great performance, and like just like the realism of like how you think you would react in this situation, or also not know how to react. There are several scenes where she just like doesn't know how to react to things that are happening.
It felt so relatable.
Yeah.
Too. Like I spent so much time watching her and feeling for her. Like it really felt like she was actually going through these situations.
And I do really love the fact that there's a bit the plot line of her former like substance abuse, right? She's like, she has to then withhold this stuff even further, because if she goes and tries to like seek any help for this, people will think she's crazy. That'll be like hurt her like her image in the spotlight. And there's a whole thing about that, about like taking care of a person's actual mental health versus like caring about them just as a content creator performer, like basically a dancing monkey. Like there's a whole lot of that that's like incredible.
I feel like I need to see it again, if only for the fact that there are so many branching paths
really though
in this movie. Like when
I'll pay off very well.
Oh yeah. No, everything had a purpose.
Yeah.
Which is, you cannot say that for any movie.
No,
ever.
really. It is so common that you see these like branching plot lines that like could have just been cut, really didn't need to go anywhere.
I mean, comparing it to Beetlejuice, I think is a really good example, because that movie had like 30,000 plot lines that went nowhere. This movie had 30,000 plot lines that all paid off.
Exactly. They all made sense. They had a purpose. It was great. Every direction this movie went. Like you could argue as soon as they start that, like, do we need to see this? And then it happens. They're like, no, that was great. And I loved it. Naomi Scott's fantastic.
Okay, so one more thing before we go into spoiler territory. Obviously, we liked it a lot, and we think you should definitely go see it.
Absolutely.
But the cinematography in this movie...
I was about to say...
Oh my God.
Do you want to talk about the multiple continuous
shots, dude?
The opening sequence is like almost a 10-minute long, just like one shot sequence.
I leaned over to Isaac and I was like, dude, the camera hasn't cut.
And I hadn't even thought about that. And I think that's the best kind of like continuous shot, when you were like, it is so well done, you're not even thinking about it. Everything is so seamless. And then when it's brought to your attention, you're like, whoa, wait a minute. Yes, this entire time.
I will not be surprised to find out that Parker Finn was a fan of the movie Children of Men, which has like 20 shots in the whole movie or something like that.
Yeah.
And because there's a specific scene in a car driving on a cliffside. I will not get into it, but that entire scene is a continuous shot. It lasts like 8 minutes, and it was the perfect buildup of tension. I haven't seen that since like a Hitchcock movie. That tense feeling that I felt in that, I couldn't breathe. I was nauseous.
I think it's something that we talked about when we were talking about what is it? Speak No Evil. You were talking about the original one, I think. About us as that one shot where it doesn't cut away. It's just like the family arguing in the kitchen or something that. There is something that is you get to breathe a sigh of relief when watching a movie when it cuts away from something, right?
Yes.
When there are no cuts, it feels very realistic to your brain. It puts you in that situation. The tension can build, no breaks. It's
like blinking.
Yes.
Like we're human. We want to blink. And so the tension gets built so well.
Yes.
But I will say, most movies try the continuous shots, do them decently, but can't quite stick the landing.
Yeah.
This movie, I was waiting for the next continuous shot. I loved it.
This movie sticks the landing a couple times.
Well.
There's not a ridiculous amount of not nonstop continuous cuts in this movie, but there are a couple scenes, and every time it just really worked.
They were used sparingly, but when they were used very well. And
they really knew how to work
I cannot
them.
really think of a horror movie that used them at all, let alone this well.
Yes, and they did a very, very good job at that. And so not only the continuous shots that were great, they're really good at building the suspense in the scenes. Also, just a lot of shots in the movie. I was like, this is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Look at the way that this is built. It's very, very good.
And as I mentioned with our little cold open at the beginning, they did this fun thing where they would show the city skyline and then flip it upside down.
Yeah,
that was probably like the only camera work in the movie that I felt was like a little gimmicky. But
it feels very much like, don't you get it? Her whole world is turning upside down.
Well, and I kind of looked at it as can you trust this reality?
Oh, that's good.
That's kind of how I took it. Was like, is the world spinning? Is it real? Is it Anyway, that was cool. So, go see Smile 2.
Absolutely. No, it is a very good time. Also, go listen to Smile 2, because Derek was actually, we were making a lot of jokes, because this is not the only pop star concert-centric. Yeah, this is not the only concert-centric horror movie that has been released this year. Derek, you watched a fun movie called Trap from this year, right? Which we talked a little bit about on past episodes. This movie was so much
better than Trap, though.
Yeah, I haven't seen Trap yet. I will watch it at some point. But I've only listened to one song Derek actually sent me from this. The songs that Naomi Scott, because Naomi Scott can actually sing.
Yeah, she's gorgeous.
The songs that she sings in this movie, kind of certified bangers. Not gonna lie.
They released the soundtrack, quote unquote, on Spotify.
She has a profile as if she is an artist, like Sky Riley. You can look her up on Spotify and listen to her songs.
I love it when people do this kind of thing.
Yeah.
With the difference being, this music is actually really good.
Yes.
Music in Trap had 2 good songs.
Exactly right. And that makes sense. It was literally M. Night Shyamalan putting his daughter, a pop star, a wannabe pop star, into a movie, right? And so there is something to be said about that. But I was actually really shocked that and they also didn't overdo that. I want to say I thought we were going to have a Trap situation where we're spending a lot of the movie just at the concert.
Yeah.
There are very few scenes actually taking place at the concert.
Yeah, which is how Trap should have been.
Yes. Yes, it absolutely makes sense. Because, the longest sequence of her actually performing on a stage is actually a rehearsal before the show even starts.
But it worked.
It worked very well. The music was actually really, really good. And Naomi Scott, she's got a voice. I'm not even that super into very pop music, but these were actually really good. And just the way they utilized having her as a pop star, using her rehearsals, it just works so good for me.
So I was driving. I go to work at 5 a.m. and I was listening. Sometimes I'm in a rush, so I just click the first thing I see on Spotify.
Yeah.
And I clicked on the Sky Riley album, and I'm listening to one of the songs, and they have put in a spot in one of the songs that is essentially the music equivalent of a jump scare.
What?
Because there's a part of the song that just stops and then comes back in, just out of nowhere. And at first, I thought my phone was just freaking out or something, but it was actually in there. So I'm driving to work at 5 a.m.
Oh, geez, you're groggy.
It scared the shit out of me, dude.
It's time to... Oh, gosh.
Literally. It scared the shit out of me.
That's wild.
Anyway, I just wanted to say that their music jump scared me.
But yeah, so is there anything else we can say about it, really?
No, go see it. We're going to spoiler talk now.
Yeah.
Because I got to talk about it.
We got to get into the spoilers of this one. So please, Derek, spoiler warning.
Spoilers! Spoiler!
Okay, it is spoiler time. Guys, someone dies. A couple of people die.
A lot of people die.
It's actually it happens, but each death feels very meaningful to me in this one.
I loved the beginning of the movie setting up the idea of how to get rid of the demon.
Yes.
Because it was so cool to see this guy trying to math it out, right?
Yes,
He's
so you have
I've
Kyle,
got this idea.
I believe his name is Kyle Gallner is his name, Gallner, Kyle Gallner. He's actually kind of an unspoken scream king. He's actually been in a lot of horror movies.
Yeah, he Yes.
And he's just he's one of those guys like you see him like, oh yeah, I know that guy, I recognize him. But yeah, Kyle Gallner, he was in the first movie, comes back for the opening scene of this one. He is trying to intentionally pass off this demon to another person.
Which is such a cool concept I did not think about.
No, exactly, because basically how the demon works is like whoever is possessed, they lose their mind, they go insane, they end up dispatching themselves, I will say, in front of somebody else, and them witnessing that death is what possesses them then, and then they go and do it, and so on and so forth.
Anyway, I just really liked the idea that he was trying to kill someone in front of someone else in order to pass the demon on. I thought that was a really good, almost foreshadowing.
Which I am curious
for later on in the movie
if that would even work. Because
I want to know.
Spoiler alert, it doesn't. It does not work for him. He botches it. It doesn't work out the way he wanted to, and he ends up dying in a second there. But what is so crazy about that is like, this is the only plot line that I was kind of sad didn't get played out like as much as I wanted it to. There is another person who has done a lot of research into the Smile killings, we'll call them. And so he's done research. His brother actually died because of it. And so he's been following the trail of like, oh, it came from this person, then it was at this person, you know? So he's kind of like the expert here who comes to Naomi Scott's character and tries to help her. And Derek's looking at me like he has a thing.
I just thought of something. Something I think would be really, really cool. So yeah, this researcher, he's like trying to figure out a way to do it. And
his name is Morris in the movie,
played by Peter Jacobson.
He
played Taub in House for you House fans.
Hey.
The concept that he had of like killing the demon by shutting down your heart and then bringing you right back.
Yes.
That's a cool idea.
It's a cool idea. We've actually seen that in something like Evil Dead from 2013, right?
Yes, exactly.
And it does successfully work for her in that movie. Where her heart stops, they bring her back, she's demon free. It worked out.
So the revelation I had, we were just barely in the not spoiler section talking about if we wanted a third movie and being torn on it. I want a third movie that follows him.
To see if
at this point, so for those of you who haven't seen the movie yet, the movie ends with a crowd of people getting the demon.
Yes.
Right. She kills herself in front of an entire arena full of people.
A massive pop star, sold out theater, kills herself in front of all of these people.
Yes.
So now we are to assume everybody in that crowd now has this demon. Like, it's always been 1-to-1, right?
Yeah.
One person killing themselves in front of another person. Like, so now we have an entire... That's unprecedented.
Where do you go with that?
We haven't seen this yet.
What I want... So if you're out there, I keep forgetting your name, Parker Finn.
Parker Finn.
If you're listening to this right now,
listening, hi.
Probably
Thank you
not
for Smile 2,
because everybody's talking about.
And Smile 1, and Laura can't sleep or whatever.
Laura hasn't slept.
There it is. I'm so close.
Sorry, we bad talked your first movie, man. Love you. Glad you're here.
Listen, you shocked me. I was surprised.
Me in. I'm going to go back and watch Smile 1.
I'm super
actually,
in.
Because maybe I'll love it this time.
Honestly, I might.
Okay. Anyway, give me a third movie that follows Morris trying to convince the general public that they have a demon.
Yeah.
And they all need to kill themselves.
That could be pretty wild. Because, what I was sad about was the fact that, so we have Kyle Gallner's character in the beginning kind of doing his own attempt to pass on the demon. And now this Morris character comes to Sky Riley. He's like, hey, I have an idea for how to finish this out. Unfortunately, we don't get to see that play out. That plan gets botched and stopped in the middle of it. And then, we wake up in the actual scenario where she ends up, offing herself in front of an entire audience of people, right? So we don't actually get to see if that plan can work. If the whole, shutting down your heart rate and then bringing yourself back to life, like starting your heart again after the fact, would it work? I want to know.
Also, were they even in an abandoned Pizza Hut? Did that even happen?
Are there still abandoned
Did they
Pizza
even
Huts?
try? Are there still Pizza
Where
Huts?
are they? I would like to see. Is there still merch up in there? Can I steal the big Pizza Hut sign? Because I would like to have that and put it in my house.
It would be incredible. And
Pizza Hut, if you're listening, I'm available Monday, Friday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Any day you want.
What about Thursday, Friday, Saturday?
No, those are my. I'm saved for Domino's on those days. No, but so that was the only thread that I had a problem with. Where it was a setup thing that because it didn't end up actually going anywhere, it could have almost been cut for me. That's the only thing. I liked where it was going. I liked the thought behind it. We just didn't actually get to see. So you're right there. I would appreciate it if that's what we did for the third one.
And it doesn't have to center around him.
No.
Because, he probably isn't the most interesting character to follow for an entire movie.
Right.
But at least have his thread there. Because you've established someone who knows the lore, right? And not in an annoying way either. He was just there, and he has information, you know? I
And I
want to
love-
see where that plays out.
Yeah, and I love that Sky Riley for the first bit of the movie like doesn't want to listen to this guy. He like somehow randomly has her phone number and it's just like anonymously texting her. And he's like, "I know you're this pop star. I know you're struggling with this. I can help you." So like it takes her a while into the movie before she finally snaps and is like, "I need someone who knows literally anything about this." Because she is just losing her mind the entire goddamn movie, and it's so sad to watch for her.
Can I say my favorite thing?
Please.
Well, this actually is kind of a segue.
No.
So when she first gets the demon, she watches what's his name?
Her friend,
her
Frigoli,
drug dealer kills himself.
Something Louis Frigoli?
Lucas Gage is his name.
Yes.
Louis Frigoli.
Louis
is the
Frigoli.
character's
Yes,
name.
it's like her old high school friend.
And she watches him kill himself. Crazy brutal death.
Yeah, it takes. I mean, you see it in the trailer, right? He takes like a weight, like from a barbell kind of thing, smashes his face in with it.
I did not expect them to show that.
No, because he smashes it once, lowers it. You see his face a bit smashed again and again till he's like skull breaking through the skin. Nastiness. Very good practical effects.
She throws up on the ground and then ends up leaving without calling the police because she doesn't want to get stuck.
You screamed this almost.
I was like, you just left so much DNA at that site. You just did it. I was freaking out. I was like, this is another problem with movies where they just ignore this fact.
And a couple minutes
What happened
later,
next?
Couple minutes later, she's on her phone Googling, does throw up have DNA in it?
I cheered.
That is such like
I was so proud.
I just love that is the thing. We were like, yes, an audience member will probably catch that and be like, actually.
Yes, I've watched a lot of true crime Netflix documentaries.
And so they caught that before you could. It's like, no, she did. She's aware. She's looking into it.
But also, it so deeply humanized her as a character.
Absolutely.
With one Google search. I don't know why. That put me in the seat of the movie.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, she's real.
Yes.
This is a human
She's
dealing
a very
with
real
bullshit.
person who has like gone through some shit. I mean, like I mentioned earlier in our non-spoiler territory where we're talking about she had issues with substance abuse that led to her and her boyfriend crashing a car. He died and she survived and she has like crazy scarring as a result of that. Like it hurt her pretty bad. And so like she's really anxious and nervous to come back into the spotlight, after, being publicly known as this person who has dealt with substance abuse and stuff. And the society is really nice to her. That, they're like, welcome back. We're happy to see you healthy and nice and stuff like that. But there's a whole conversation to be had about all that kind of stuff that goes throughout this movie and her struggling to hold it all in, her coming to her mom a couple times, and mom, who is like her agent basically in this movie, she doesn't give a shit about the problems she's going through.
No, it's tragic. And it does speak a lot to how people treat celebrities,
right? Like they aren't people.
No.
And she very much is a human person in this movie. You see that real human side of her that really makes you connect with her. Like even though she's a star, you see her as a realistic character, and that's how we should also feel about regular celebrities too, right?
It's true. And also, I really do agree with you. There's a lot of commentary about substance abuse as a whole and how it's treated in society. And it's like she went through it. I mean, her boyfriend died in the car. She blames herself. Like
even before there's a smile demon like freaking her out.
Her own
She's
demons.
got that's a good way to put it. She's got her own demons. You just stacked demons on top of demons in this movie.
And I think that this is for someone, if anyone watching this has dealt with substance abuse or addiction problems, they would probably relate to that demon, because when you're in those situations, you feel like it is that extreme.
Yeah.
And so to watch this character deal with that on top of everything else, that's rough.
No, and
but
she,
it's effective.
Like we've said many times, she delivers such a great performance. And I think there's something to be said about like her having her own demons gives her like some kind of willpower to fight against this demon that's in her, because there's a really cool scene where there's a couple moments where she has to come to terms with the fact, like, okay, this is a real thing that's happening to me. It is something that is trying to control my mind, but it is my body. I am in control of this, which, could be a whole thing about like, substance abuse, taking control of your own body back, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a scene where she's being driven by someone. She finds out that it's actually the demon, and she has to like sit there, eyes closed, like it's not real. I'm in control. Then she opens her eyes. She's behind the wheel of the car.
Yeah.
And I really loved, that's a new side of this creature that we haven't seen yet. The smile demon, seeing that like you can fight against it. It
That
is
felt
something
very
that just
Fight Club
lives
to
in your
me.
brain, which I love. It's kind of like when they realize that like Freddy Krueger in the Nightmare on Elm Street movies are like, he lives in your head. It's my head. I'm in control of this. I love the fact that she is like this awesome badass scream queen that like is going through some shit, but like can put up a fight against this thing. She puts up a fight. Also, we have not touched on this. there must have been some kind of audition that happened with Naomi Scott where they're like, how fast can you chug a water bottle?
Dude.
What the hell was that?
Dude, no, but that's
so
a real...
many times.
Okay, but that's a real thing that addicts could do.
Yes, because she brings us up why she does this. There are several moments in this movie where she takes specifically a Voss water bottle.
That's the thing about it that killed me. So yeah, she
was this movie sponsored by Voss? Like, what the hell?
It had to have been, because she chugs a bottle of water whenever she's feeling the need to go back to her addiction.
Yes,
like,
and it happens like no joke, like 5 or 6 times before she actually talks about it in the movie and says, my therapist says I should do this anytime I feel like I want to go drink again or use substances.
I liked that it just showed us her doing it before explaining it, though.
No, exactly. It didn't feel cheap. It felt very real.
No, it felt
and
very
the way
real.
it came up felt very realistic.
My literal only problem with it was always a Voss water bottle that was always completely
so
full
specific.
and new.
Literally like almost label facing the camera.
Yes.
Glug, 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 glug. Drink Voss. You know?
So Paramount obviously had some deal with Voss water, and that's
they have to have had
good.
that, right?
Good for them.
Yes.
It was pretty immersion breaking, but it didn't ruin the movie for me.
No, it just kind of made me chuckle.
It was a good giggle.
Nothing that ruined it for me, just like really funny every time. I'm like, there couldn't have been one scenario where she was not near a Voss water bottle and had to chug
because the people around her kept stocking her fridges with Voss water. They specifically commented on it.
and it's so great to see her like losing her mind and not understanding who to trust in this movie, because like she does have even people that do care about her and stuff like that, and she starts to kind of get crazy at them, thinking like, lashing out at them like, you're the one that did this, you were out of place in this dance, you scared me, because there's a sequence of her like she's doing a rehearsal for one of her big dance numbers in her concert, and she gets this jump scare in front of her, and as a part of when she had that car crash, she did break her leg, and there's a part where while she's dancing she gets jump scared in front of her, and then she sees her leg snap in front of her.
That scene
was brutal.
I thought she did it.
Her scream, the
good
way
example of
the
not
jump
knowing
scare
reality.
in it. But again, that's one of the many moments where like I can't trust anything. I don't know what's happening, which is so good at making you feel a bit uncomfortable about everything that's happening in this movie. And she just keeps getting put into these situations where it's like, I don't do this thing. I don't know what's going to happen. Like she becomes a spokesperson at this important gala night thing for
oh, that scene.
It's really brutal to watch her kind of lose her mind in front of these things. And again, I don't even know if that scene happened.
That's true.
I don't know if it did because the way the movie ended.
I wish that I could piece together the things. So I would say that that's my only negative about this movie, right? There's that about 30-minute period where she goes into the rehab center, right? And her mom's there. She ends up killing her mom, and then she like
which
steals
is wild
a car and
because
leaves.
it starts as like the mom is like killing herself with a piece of glass, right?
Yeah.
And then when reality flips back to the real world, she's then Naomi Scott or Sky Riley is holding the glass herself. She realizes she was the one that did it to her mother,
which was super cool.
Wild.
Well, awful,
terrible, scary.
But that whole scene was so effective, and then we find out that it didn't happen, and I didn't care for that. That was one of the only moments in the movie where I was like, I feel gypped. I feel a little cheated because I wanted to see her character deal with that.
Right.
But then it just put her right back on stage.
No, it is kind of sad to see like, oh, so that just didn't happen. We're just doing away with that, right? Which is kind of sad.
It felt a little
to see.
cheap.
Yes.
It felt like it was just a cheap scare exploiting the viewer.
Yeah.
At the same time, it was a very good scene.
It was incredibly effective.
I'm super torn,
but
and
again,
I ended up liking the end.
Yeah,
so it was
the
like,
only
okay.
reason that I can't fight that is because I don't know if it did or did not happen. It's tough, But then in the end sequence, when she's up at the concert, all her fans are there screaming for her. Her mom is there and alive.
Yeah.
So like, if that's the case, it's probably stand to reason. Yeah, she probably didn't kill her mom at the psych hospital.
My thought is my like rationality of it is like she had this vision she was killing her mom. She ran away. She didn't actually kill her mom.
Yeah.
And then like stole a car, got away and everything, and then got taken back and ended up doing the concert. That's like the only rationality in my brain to make it all.
I know. I'm curious. It just makes me curious, how much of this actually happened, which there's a part of me that like likes not having everything, spoon fed to me. But also there's a part of me that I'm like, I would like to know if some of that was real at all, because it has more weight, more gravity to it if that really actually happened. However, the character of Sky Riley experienced them all. They were very real to her.
They were real to her.
Yeah. So like there's something to be said about that, like they were very real to her. Yeah. But yeah, can we talk about like the last, like the end sequence here of the movie? So basically like the final chapter of this movie, what happens is she goes to this Morris guy, she starts listening to him. She's like, because for a while she's like, no, you're crazy. This is insane. This like, there's no demon inside me, where I'm not going to let you kill me and bring me back to life. So then she eventually does go through with it. She meets him at this abandoned Pizza Hut, like Tarek mentioned earlier, because it's the only place that had like a large enough fridge to hold her body or something like that.
walk-in
Because he was like, he's a nurse. And so he's like, we stop your heart, we need to keep the body fresh or something. I can't remember his exact reasoning for it, but they have to happen in a freezer, right? So he's like, okay, I'm going to give you this injection. Your heart's going to stop. And after a certain amount of time, I'm going to come in here and give you this like adrenaline shot to bring you back to life, right? And like restart your heart. And so after he leaves, she starts to see these weird visions. She sees a version of herself from like before the car crash, like the crazy her that she hates that had the crazy substance abuse problems like that. This other version of herself. It's almost like a substance kind of thing in some ways.
Yeah, for sure.
But then they start to battle it out with each other. And then that, like, younger, it's only a couple years younger than her, like the year or two younger version of herself starts having these really big, wide, scary eyes as she's smiling at her. It's really fun to watch, Naomi Scott fight Naomi Scott. But I honestly thought that's all we were going to get because, spoilers for Smile 1, the reason that the end of that movie really popped off for me was because there's a bit where the main character is going to confront this demon and try to fight it. It is no longer just a smiling person. It like crawls out of the mouth of a person and is this fleshy, long-jawed, multiple rows of smiling teeth, big bearing eyes, disgusting monstrosity.
Such a cool design.
Which was entirely practical, which really blew my mind. I did not expect that. That was only like this year I found out that was a practical creation, which God bless America. That was God bless you, horror industry. I love you so much.
Thank you, Paramount Pictures.
Thank you for all of that. But so I was a little disappointed because I was like, oh, is that all we're going to get? It's just like Naomi Scott looking kind of freaky with these big bulging eyes. Then fast forward, she like comes to, she's back in what we assume is real reality now.
Yeah.
She's at the concert in front of a bunch of people, kind of having a moment. All eyes are on her. And then she sees herself? Who's in front of her?
Yeah, she sees herself.
She sees herself in front of her. And then herself, remember how I mentioned earlier, she had the car crash, she had those scars, right? There's a big one up on her stomach. She then with her own hands, puts her hands into her stomach scar, splits it open, and from that scar in her stomach out comes this even bigger, even worse, more disgusting than the first time. There's the smile monster.
Yeah.
Wow. It was longer. It was almost like the centipede body. It had multiple arms.
Yeah.
Again, tons of rows of teeth in its mouth. And it's just like this awful grin that just stares down at you. Like, it's that kind of smile where just like that thing looks at you, you're done for. There is no running. There's nothing you can do at this point. And she does kind of just submit to it because then what it does is...
What else are you going to do?
Exactly. It's just pure abject terror at that point. You are frozen in that place. And so she just kind of sits there staring up as it is crawling out of herself in front of her. And then it puts its arms into her mouth and slowly just spreads it wide open. And her mouth opens like scary wide, like it's the mouth of a snake, and just like crawls inside of her. Like, it is just horrific. It was so effective. It was very, very good. And like the effects on that one, god damn.
I loved how it cut from us seeing the audience perspective to her perspective, because the audience can't see the creature.
No, they just see her staring up at something and
she's choking and like
she's
gasping,
making these, like,
and then
guttural
she
sounds.
gets up and smiles and starts hitting herself in the head with her freaking,
which is great because they don't show that.
No, it's
you
just
just hear it. And it's funny because like they've shown way worse things in the movie at this point, but they don't show you Sky Riley. You just see the crowd's faces as they react to the sound of a microphone feedback as it smashes into her face.
But
then you see her after the fact.
I loved that they did this. I mean, obviously you love it too.
Good.
But it is so effective for the fact that you're watching this crowd. You're screaming for them to leave. You're like, no, if you watch this, you're going to get the demon. You're going to get that parasite. Get out.
But they're here. They can't look away as it's happening in front of them. They don't know what to do.
Them all react.
Yes.
Oh.
It is honestly, that is so much better than us seeing like, a cool practical, like her smashing her face in with a microphone, way better than that. So yeah, she dies in front of this whole crowd. Credits roll after that, guys.
Yeah, man.
That is it. And so yeah, we don't know, is the smile demon going to return? Has it now been transferred to all of these people? Because like at that point, what can you do? How can you stop that? It was hard enough to stop one of them.
Give me another one, though.
Let alone, like, how do you stop hundreds, maybe thousands of people who now have this and will go about their lives and spread it across the world?
That is another question, though. Does it still only pass to one host?
That's what I wonder. Like, is there only one? Like, can it exist amongst this many hosts? Is it less powerful this way? That is what I love about the fact that this movie did so well at giving us essentially the same situation, right? Like Naomi Scott's character just has the demon that makes you go crazy and see smiling people all around you. They did it again, And I still feel like I know so little about this Smile monster. And I love that.
I love that too.
Because that's something that like really can ruin the fear factor of a creature in any movie.
Yeah.
When like you see it in its full glory, you see everything that it can do, all of its capabilities, you know its weaknesses. It's like, okay, well now it's not as scary because it's not unknown anymore, right? Like what is bigger than the fear of the unknown, you know?
That's true.
And so I love, even after a sequel, I still feel like I have so many questions about this monster, where it came from, how it works, you know, like what are its limits and capabilities. All we know it has been successful for 2 movies now.
Yep.
There is very little stopping it. Even when you thought they had bested it, they still couldn't do it. So like,
true.
And that's what worries me. Like, I don't know if I want to see them best this creature because like I just really enjoy the way they did this, and I love that it doesn't have an actual physical form until the very end of these movies, and it looks so cool.
There's so many different avenues they could go with a third movie. Like they could make like a post-apocalyptic world where like 20 years later the world has plunged itself into chaos. Everyone is gone.
Everyone frowns. You can't trust anyone smiling now.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, really.
Like
it's a cool
there
concept.
are places you can go with this. Like I'm just so shocked that we came from, again, Parker Finn, props to you for going from Smile 1 that I like adamantly was like, nah, dude, not a great movie. The last 10 minutes, so. But this one, like they really just in every conceivable facet of the movie, it was better. It was scarier. There was better tension in it, better performances. Naomi Scott was a godsend to this movie in all honesty.
Yeah.
There's fun music, cinematography, fun sets, the practical effects, everything about it worked 10 times better than the first movie. And it's just like, it's so impressive how they managed to do this.
Yeah.
It's like props to them in all of this movie.
So for me, this movie gets 5 bottles of Voss out of 5.
Damn you.
I stole it.
Damn
I knew
you,
he was gonna say
Derek.
the
I
same
was
thing.
just going to say 5 bottles of Voss water chugged. It's got 5 smiles for me, I guess. 5 rows of teeth.
What? That's way more than 5. But yeah, this gets a perfect score for me, actually.
Yeah, it is really impressive. Like skyrocketed like in my list of like, you know, top horror movies of the year, which again, I don't know what it was, but as soon as I saw the trailer for this one, I was like, no, dude, this one's going to come through. This is another one that like I myself, without anybody else's reviews and critics, whatever, I was like, this is going to be good. And it was better than good.
There was definitely something about the trailer, like that early trailer with her on the stage, that was like, oh, wait.
It just really felt like they had something to prove. They were like, guys, we did it this time. They really nailed it. So like,
please go see it. Please support it.
Please go check it out. Go support Parker Finn, Naomi Scott, Kyle Gallner, all the people that were in this movie. Also, Ray Nicholson was in this movie too, which is only mentionable.
Kind of throwaway.
No, just because he is Jack Nicholson's son, who we all know, known for smiling. You've seen The Shining. You know the Jack Nicholson smile there. So like, I really feel like that was the biggest reason they even had him in this movie.
Absolutely.
But yes, all of them deserve the praise. All of them deserve. It is a really, really fun horror experience. Had us cowering in our seats. We left feeling like, oh God, what a movie. It was very good. Just a great horror movie from the year 2024.
Absolutely. And if you want to see more, check us out.
Keep us
around
on all of our socials. We're on all the places you can find us: Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. We'll be uploading this guy to YouTube. If you're watching us here, hello.
Hi.
It's good to see you.
See us.
And if you're not here, here's the sound of me smiling.
Here's the sound of me smiling.
Thank you for joining us. We will see you again in another week for another normal episode. But as always, Garfield be with you. Stay spooky.
Goodbye.